Okay, so today I'm gonna talk a little bit about what happened to me um, right before I started dialysis for the second time. I had gone to see uh, a doctor because I wasn't seeing anybody for like about 5 years at least about my kidney disease because I was doing very well. I didn't think I needed a doctor. So things started to decline a little bit after my mother died. Um, I was having a lot of pain in my hips. Um, and I thought, well, maybe something's going on with the kidney disease. I need to find out what's going on. Let me just get a checkup and find out. So sure enough, there's a lot of protein in my urine. There was a lot of phosphorus and potassium in my blood, and my parathyroid hormone was very high. And so he said, okay, well, he wasn't a nephrologist, but he knew a little bit about nephrology. So he knew that, okay, you have to get the blood pressure under control, and you need to get the parathyroid glands to be under control. So he prescribed Sensipar for the parathyroid, and Azor and Tecturna, which are two. Well, actually, those three medications were very new on the market. And I think he actually said to me these are new medications and they're specifically for people with renal failure and all this other stuff. And, I bought into the whole thing. I thought, oh, well, this sounds good to me, Doctors are salesmen too. And so I started taking that. I think he also prescribed Foslo for the phosphorus, to kind of help the phosphorus levels. There's not much you can do about potassium other than curtail eating things that are high in potassium, like fruits, vegetables, you know, all the stuff that I enjoyed eating, and the beans and all the low protein things, beans, rice, grains, all that stuff is very high in phosphorus, nuts. That's how I was eating. So basically, I was like unable to eat anything that I enjoyed eating anymore. It's like, okay, you can't eat any stuff anymore. So I was trying to figure out how to eat. I think that's probably part of the reason why I got so thin at that time, because I couldn't really eat anything that I was used to eating, because it was detrimental. So anyway, before very long, I started developing a rash all over my body, my face, my torso, particularly on my legs and the top of my feet. I had a very bad itch on my shins, and I would just scratch and scratch and scratch like a mad woman. And before long, all that scratching developed into an infection, into a staph infection, and it was getting pretty bad. And I went to a dermatologist, and I said, "Well, what's going on with this? What do you think this is? What can you do for me?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't know what it is. It's eczema." I was like, "Eczema? That sounds horrible," And so of course they prescribe, ointments and all this other stuff. I think it was just ointment. He didn't think that it was an infection at the time. It was just an itch. It was eczema, right? So he just prescribed a lotion kind of ointment kind of thing. Oh, so it was like ointment and then a lotion, right? Which is supposed to help with this dry skin issue, which is supposed to be eczema. And, because you're itching because your skin is dry. So I tried the lotion, I tried the ointment. The ointment seemed to make the infection worse, and the lotion wasn't helping to soothe any kind of dry skin or whatever was supposed to be happening. This eczema, first of all, let me just let you know that eczema is just a term that doctors use to describe a mystery skin ailment. You're itching, your skin is dry, you get these funny little dry patches or whatever. That's eczema. They don't know what it is. They don't know what causes it. They don't know how to cure it. It's incurable. We don't know what to do with that. So just take this lotion and, just put the lotion on for the rest of your life and maybe it'll help you. So anyway, like I said, none of that stuff helped. It made it worse. And before I knew it, my skin was like, this big on my shins. Like the top half of my shins on both legs was just a nasty, raw staph infection. It was just, it was red. The skin had eroded, basically. I don't know. I think that it was actually down maybe to the muscle because the hairs had just kind of basically vanished. They vanished, and it was just, I would put a bandage on my legs, on my shins, to keep the skin from abrading against my clothes because it was winter time or whatever. And I was trying everything. I was trying soaking my legs. I was trying putting on ointments. I would try all kinds of stuff, and nothing was working. It was only making it worse. I tried tea tree oil, and that backfired on me because I think that tea tree oil is not good for raw, open wounds. I used to use it for mosquito bites and stuff like that, and it would help, but and it's antibiotic and antiseptic, but if you put it on a raw open wound, open sore, it blows up. It just becomes worse than anything. And I was actually, because it's supposed to be antibiotic, antiseptic, I was putting it on, and I bought, higher quality stuff, and I used several bottles in a very short amount of time. Maybe for like at least a month, maybe like 2 or 3 months, I was using tea tree oil, thinking that it's supposed to help me, but it was making it worse. And the staph infection just it grew and spread and got worse and worse. And that wasn't the only part of my body. I mean, I had some sores on my back, had sores on my breasts. My lips started to get they weren't infected, but they were definitely itching a lot, and I thought, oh my god, and I was going crazy because I thought, oh my god, everything was itching me. And I kept imagining that there were these little creepy crawlies, living inside my skin. It was weird. It's almost like if you ever look up Morgellons, it's kind of like that kind of madness in your head. You start feeling that there's things living in your skin. Anyway, so like I said, I was going crazy, and finally I think I realized that it was an actual infection, because nobody was saying you have an infection, take this antibiotic. So I finally went to my original general practitioner, and I said, give me an oral antibiotic, because this is an infection. It's an infection. Like, nobody was saying it's an infection. And so they finally gave me a prescription for, I think, penicillin. And it sure enough went away, but not completely. It went away for the most part. It healed up well enough that you could manage, it wasn't really hurting anymore. But it was still infected to a certain degree. And anyway, when it healed up, it wasn't like a heaving, raw skin issue. No, it was just a big, thick scab, down my shins. And then they would crackle, and I would peel them off because I was going crazy. I really was going crazy. And I would be like picking at the scabs constantly, and they would bleed. And I'd pick at a scab and I'd walk away from having picked the scab, and then like 10 minutes later, I'd noticed that my pant leg was bloody and wet, and I was like, oh no. So anyway, but I kept doing it anyway. I kept picking the scabs. It was an obsession, an OCD thing, and finally my sister told me, she said that her grandbaby had some kind of eczema issue too, and she said that she would soak her and she would put her in a bathtub with borax. So I did that, and it went away completely. It totally dried up, and then it just left a big old black patch, which was just a discoloration, which I was mortified about that too, because it's just a big old black patch as black as my hair on my leg. It's like, what's going on? This is horrible. So needless to say, I never wore pretty clothes, pretty dresses. I would wear long pants. Anyway, so with that, I was still getting the itches though. And I finally realized that these medications, I kept asking them, could it be the medication? And nobody would say it was the medication. And finally, I went to see somebody. Well, no, I went to see the doctor again, and there was an intern there. It was just a guy who was just doing some kind of intern thing, whatever these medical interns do. And he was examining me, and I asked him, do you think this is an allergy? Do you think this is an allergy to the medications? And he actually just very candidly said, well, yeah, any kind of prescription medication can give you an allergic reaction. And I thought, wow, this is finally a guy who can actually tell me the truth. Just tell me the truth, no BS, just tell me what's going on. He didn't tell me what was going on, he just said, yeah, it could be an allergy. So I immediately went to my doctor, and I said, I'm not taking this stuff anymore. I'm just not. You gotta figure something out, prescribe something else to me, because this medication is giving me the hives. And I think by then I had already started going to see an actual nephrologist. And I was still on the Azor, and the Azor is like it's a combination of two medications. And so he said, okay, well, stop taking the Azor, but take this one medicine, which is part of the combination. And so I started taking that, and it was, the same itch, maybe not as crazy. And so I stopped taking the Tecturna, I stopped taking the Azor, I was taking something else. And I finally said, you know what, this Sensipar thing, that's got to be part of the problem too. Because the fact of the matter is that when you have a medication that's less than 10 years, field tested, like, people actually using the stuff, not just, lab tested, but field tested. If it's less than 10 years, there's still a lot of kinks to work out of the system. And you still have to figure out what people are going to become, what kind of side effects are going to come out of taking these medications. And so, because those medicines were so brand new, they really didn't know. They didn't know that all these things could happen to a person. And so, in truth, the doctor couldn't say to me, yeah, it could be the Tecturna, it could be the Azor, or the Sensipar, But anyway, needless to say, I couldn't take any of those medications anymore. I think I stopped taking the Foslo. I started taking another phosphorus binder, and I exhausted the list of the phosphorus binders that are out there. All the phosphorus binders I became allergic to. I became allergic to all the high blood pressure medications that they gave me. And, thankfully, back in... Well, anyway, whatever. Anyway, so, I had surgery, I think, back in 2010 to have my parathyroid glands cut out, basically. They left a little piece of one and cut out 3 of them completely, and so that left me with 1/4 of a piece. And after that surgery, everything was wonderful. It was beautiful. My blood pressure was normal. The strength in my legs was recovered. I didn't have to walk with a cane anymore. My eyes, cleared up like bright, bright white. Um, and I was living a dream. But needless to say, that dream didn't last very long. Like I think 2.5 years after that, I started having to walk with a cane again. I had a second surgery for parathyroid, and that was completely ineffective. And on top of that, it ruined my voice. It made me have this funky pipsqueak voice. It's not as bad as it used to be. I used to be very high pitched and a lot more low. I couldn't emote. I still can't really emote well enough, but I can emote a lot better than I used to. Anyway, I think I've talked long enough. I don't want it to go beyond 16 minutes. So, anyway, I'll tell you some more. I'll give you more stories. There's so much to talk about. Thanks for watching.